Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and we're sitting down to talk about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. The question may be, why, Matty? The gameplay dropped like 2 months ago. Previews dropped like 2 months ago. Why are you talking about this now? Well, over this last weekend, I did a little bit of RPG soul searching, right? I looked around at the RPGs of 2024 and how dramatic of a swing it's been for me in what I expected versus what I got. Many who I viewed as safe bets to deliver something within the wheelhouse of my tastes have done the exact opposite and have led to me reassessing things. I think of experiences like Shattered Space, where I went, okay, this is Bethesda Game Studios going back to their bread and butter. Certainly this should be, at the very least, okay. And I found it to be one of the worst things I played this year, which is something I never ever expected to be saying. But it showed to me that Bethesda Game Studios' values are in a different place and they have not evolved enough compared to something like Cyberpunk 2077, which gave me everything a Bethesda Game Studios game typically would in the first-person immersive sim qualities, while also giving me reactive stories that I can change the direction on. It just feels like they've been lapped a little bit. And I don't think it needs much saying at all, but BioWare has also been lapped for years. And with Dragon Age: The Veilguard, this is one that I think I had my expectations in a reasonable place. I wasn't expecting, while I did want it, to be something like Dragon Age Origins or Mass Effect or KOTOR, but I knew the people who made those games were long gone. I was just hoping for something on the level of Inquisition. But when it delivered underneath all of that and gave me dialogue that wasn't as reactive as I was hoping for, it again led me to go, okay, pull yourself out of the muck for a second here and take an honest look at the developers who kind of raised you as a gamer, where they are now, and who's delivering experiences that were inspired by those games that are going to leave you a little less salty after the credits roll. At first, I started looking at Avowed and preparing a video on that game to just talk about it, kind of where I lie with the game. But as I was reflecting more and more, I went, no, when I played it in my preview, the dialogue was excellent. It was branching. There was so much to sink your teeth into, and that's what Obsidian does brilliantly. The combat, also in a design level, was pretty good. I was really happy with how all over the controller I was, switching out loadouts, targeting enemy weaknesses. I saw a lot of potential there. We'll see how it's executed across a full game, but it was also that the melee combat wasn't responsive enough. The 30 FPS combat also left me a little off. I mean, where are priorities lying for Obsidian when they're making a first-person game and saying that FPS really doesn't matter for that? It was a little crazy to me, but nonetheless, I'm still excited for it, but it knocked me down a peg. Then I bring up a 2025 upcoming game release calendar, and it's there I see Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and I go, oh wait, you know what? Like, I only watched a little bit of the gameplay that dropped that was 25 minutes long. I only saw the initial trailers. I didn't watch any of the previews to see like what's the take, what's the feel for this game. I didn't read any of the developer comments. And boy, am I glad I did, because this is now probably my most anticipated game of 2025. I covered the first KCD a ton, and I think I was just in the thick of covering other things when this game was announced, where I didn't have an opportunity to make a video on it. But honestly, I'm really happy with how the timing of this all worked out, because I think my initial take would have been like, all right, cool, it's more KCD 2. But after getting the games I've got, I just feel like I'm over the moon that it's more KCD. And then getting into the previews and seeing where the reactivity lies, where the values of Warhorse Studios lies. I'm so pumped for this game, man. And it's only out in a few months now. I'm really, really excited. The only thing that is kind of holding me back from full-blown hype is the fear of bugs. As someone who covered a lot of KCD 1, that's kind of what held that game back. There were bugs mentioned in the previews I did watch, and so I am looking at it going, okay, this could be a similar thing here where you see a lot of good stuff going on within the game and its mechanics and adhering to the original game's vision, which I think will propel it to another level. If you look at Dragon's Dogma and Dragon's Dogma 2, you see how that'll work out for them and how great that game did for Capcom. But when I look at Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I feel like bugs are the only thing that could tie this down, which some previewers, not all, did experience. But I just kind of want to take a moment to talk about the things that I'm excited about with this game. I don't know. I feel like I need this to restore my vibe a little bit, right? I need something to kind of mark on the calendar that I can look at and go, yeah, I'm really excited for this one. Can't wait to get my hands on it. So let's talk about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Like I said earlier, it's just, carrying on what the first game did really well. A lot of people feel the first game was kind of unfinished, minus all of the DLC it eventually got. I'm talking about at launch. It was kind of unfinished. Some of those systems maybe not baked in as much as they could have been, and the sequel feels like it is realizing a lot of that. I watched a great preview from a YouTuber called Neon Knight, and it was there he talked about how the crime system has become far more reactive, and that excited me the most, because there was a point where he killed someone and he got branded over it in the public. And then because of that, people were looking at him differently. When he passed by, I went, okay, that's cool. But then it turns out like vendors won't do business with him now. Certain quest givers won't interact with him. I was like, dang, that is cool that you can get punished for a particular type of play style, like high risk, high reward. Oh, you want to steal that thing? Okay, you might get something really good for cheap and early in the game, but you also may pay a heavy price if you get caught. I love the guts on Warhorse Studios. Like, revealing a game is obviously a very scary thing to do. Maybe a little less scary, I don't know, based on the fact that Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 was well received, and so you're doing more of that in the second one. So maybe there's a little more reassurance of, hey, this is something that people should at least dig, at least our core audience. But to kind of open up the reveal for this game and say, hey, gameplay showcase 1, what's the first quest we're showing? Oh yeah, it's going to be pulling a dead body out of a pile of shit. That's incredible, dude. And oh, we're going to loot a bow off the body, and you're going to get haggled for the crap-filled bow, and you're going to kill people because of it. I love the whole confidence and vibe of that showing there, where that's such a video game moment. I don't know. You just couldn't imagine a movie doing that, or anime doing that, or a book doing that. Just showing a scene of you pulling something out of crap. I just adore what they did here on that level, because it did get to show the game's strengths in a really odd way. Like, oh, you smell bad, and when you walk by someone because you were just standing in a pile of crap, guess what? They're going to notice how bad you smell, and you're going to have to go to a bath and clean up for the day. So it was effective in this really weird, unexpected way. I did have some issues with Kingdom Come Deliverance 1's combat. Like, when I say issues, by the way, I don't mean mechanically speaking. I more so mean skill issues. A lot of the previews I watched seem to assure that the early goings are easier and walking you into it. I think Warhorse is expecting this to be a big one, and especially by the way the market is settling and in turn, I think eventually reacting, I do expect KCD2 to be massive. I think this is going to be a huge game, and especially if you are parked right next to Avowed and you're kind of outdoing your rival, if you will, because no doubt that's what gamers are going to make of it. I'm not incentivizing it, but we know that's what's going to happen there. If they're the winner in that war, I think it's just, gaming is a snowball effect, right? So I think this is going to be huge. And I think that's why they seem to have lowered the skill level initially speaking. Now, reviews suggested that when you get into the deeper parts of the game, it does get that level of complexity and combo usage. And I thought that was awesome to hear, because for KCD, for me, it was just like, can I block your attack? Because that's all I'm trying to do. I eventually went to more blunt weapons because it kind of lets you just pound away and just not really worry too much about, oh, you're going to block that? Yeah, I'm just going to crush right through that and hit you anyway. In this showcase, they also displayed how you can like dodge around the back of an enemy when they're using a shield and knock a weapon out of their hand or knock the shield out of their hand. I thought that was great. I mean, that level of interactivity is what really brought me into KCD in the first place. I loved how in the first one, for example, I always go back to this because I just thought it's so brilliant, is that you could learn to read. You know, that's usually a given in games. Like, oh, this book, I'm going to need to be able to read this to have the game convey information to me, whether it be about a system in the game or something I want to make or whatever it is. But your character can't read based off his upbringing, and so it's a skill that you learn throughout the course of the game, and you can only complete certain quests if you do learn how to read. So I just love that level of immersion and thought put into the game systems, and it adds up because Daniel Vavra is behind this game, and he was behind some of the original Mafia games, which were very reactive, very focused on immersion. You know, these were immersive qualities like when you were speeding in Mafia, or if you ran a red light, the cops would come after you, they'd follow you, they'd tail you, and as you'd see all these crimes start to rack up, a lot of them were things you'd find in our normal world. I just really appreciate that that series did those things. It brought me in a little bit closer, and that's what Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 does. That's what the first one did. That's what reflects Daniel Vavra as a creative and what he brings to the table when it comes to games he works on. This is something he clearly values a lot, and I think it's going to have a lot of payoff in the sequel because, again, a lot of what this is taking these things that already exist in the first game and bringing them on a much more grand scale. You know, the combat is already the definition of immersive because you have to pick the direction and deflect based on where the attack is coming in, and there are combos that you can string together. It's not super flashy, super poppy, and that's great because that's part of the charm. So it's there in the combat, it's there in the interaction with the environment and how the people react to you. And there's like little things that are already in the first game, like changing your outfit because the weight of your outfit is going to affect your ability to stealth, and you'll see stealth gameplay in the showcase itself. There are enemies that can surrender to you, and it's those moment-to-moment decisions of, do I kill them or do I take their stuff? And how it's reactive where, oh, I took their shoes. And so when they run away, you actually see their shoes are missing. I don't want to speak for everybody. Maybe that doesn't go super far for you, but for me, it certainly does. So from the combat to just keeping the same values as the first game, I think this represents a lot of what I am personally looking for. And best yet, they're doing something that I think is really neat that not enough games do, and that's kind of respecting the choices you made in the first game. Now, much like in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, it seems, the first one did allow you to make those moment-to-moment choices. You could get decisions wrong in quests. They would be kind of self-contained. It wouldn't be necessarily like branching reactivity, but there were choices you can make in the prologue according to previews, like, oh, hey, guess what? I beat Hans in that duel to open the game, and they'll have a conversation about that. Or who is your lover in Kingdom Come Deliverance 1? It'll change some of the interactions there. I think that just goes a really long way for players in that investment. And I think you just look at what, started this video talking about BioWare. You look at what they did at one point. I think the main reason people were in on even Dragon Age: The Veilguard is because the Keep was there. Now, the Keep was one of the more underwhelming parts of the game, and that's what started to undo some of the excitement from even core Dragon Age fans. Not all of them, but some of them, like myself, when I saw that Keep, I went, 3 choices, that's it? That is a huge loss there. Whereas something like Mass Effect, importing your save file and seeing characters that didn't die on certain missions are there with you for big moments in the game. It's so rewarding. So to know there's a level of continuity here is great. There is also a level of continuity in Henry's skill set. Like, he can read pretty immediately, but he does get to a level statistically and equipment-wise reset, so we'll find out what exactly that is. If I were to nitpick, that sounds like the one thing that's a bit of a bummer. I like how Trails does it, where you just carry into game 2, 3, 4, 5, and this series goes on like 10 plus entries, so pardon me. But every time you start up with these characters, they have the same skill set from the previous game. There is no resetting. Like, they'll start off the game at level 55. It's great. I love how they think about sequels on a design level, on a character balancing level. And it's tough, but I think it's worth it, where I feel like every sequel needs to reset you, because we're all stepping in going, well, you're going to be OP because you had all of these skills in game 1, and then they find a way to reset you in game 2. While this game does seem to carry a lot of Henry's skill set into the sequel, it does look like there's going to be a bit of a reset. Visually, the game looks stunning, just like the first one. And everything from lighting to texture quality looks awesome. It's still got a little bit of the Eurojank, right? And I think that was to be expected based on the first game. The way that, like, you'll see Henry's chin clip into his armor when he's talking, things that you'd expect in an RPG like this. But the menu work looks beautiful when I saw them putting on equipment or bringing open the map. These were things I adored in the first game, and I'm very excited about them in the second game. And that's what's so cool about this, is a lot of things that I continue to bring up. I'm like, yeah, that was there in the first game. That was there in the first game. And there's been enough time to miss it, at least for me, as someone who admittedly did not play any of the DLC. But now, because I'm feeling my excitement build up, I might squeeze in a replay of KCD, because there's not many other games I'm reviewing leading into the end of the year. And I do want to play KCD 1 again, just brush up on the history, because that's one of the things that defines this series, right, is the historical accuracy that's built in. I remember one of the videos I made on this channel leading into that launch was like a 3-minute history lesson on just what was happening in the world of Kingdom Come Deliverance, because much like its mechanics, its story is set in realism, the setting is real, etc., etc. It's all focusing on the believability of its world. The reputation system also looks really cool based on how you interact with people. There are certain choices that may or may not be able to go through. They showed a choice at the end where you tried to convince someone to not hang another individual because they hit their wives, and instead you end up getting into a fight, and you're able to cut this individual loose. But because it's something like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, you know they had to have thought of a way where, like, what happens if I don't cut that individual down? Like, what happens if I leave them hanging there for a little bit? Because there is like a real-time system in the game where it accounts for everyone's schedules, and everyone's doing things, and the world's moving in real time. So you know that individual could die, and like, how would the quest change if you failed there? That's what I love about this game. That's why I'm so excited to go back to the original one and just remember all the things I adored about it. Like, for example, going to sleep in the middle of the woods and waking up on the other side of the map, and because you were in the middle of a time-sensitive quest, you have to sprint all the way back. Like, those are the moments that really define KCD. It's a mixture of dynamic encounters, beautiful art, beautiful visuals, also really unique combat, and so much more immersive qualities that just make it into a special experience. And so I am on the hype train for KCD 2. I know people will make fun of me for taking this time to get into it, but yeah, like, after playing the first one and not really having a desire for DLC, I didn't even really expect a sequel. Now we get that, and we see here that it's looking really good, and I'm glad I took the time to look into it now versus before everything was coming out, because it's just totally changed my perspective on the game. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, looking forward to KCD2. I'll try to include it in the coverage we do here on the channel as we get closer to launch. But other than that, let me know your thoughts on KCD2 down below. Fire away. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.